you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine. How's your day going?
I'm good. Could you state your full name and the day you was born?
My name was Dolores Elizabeth Young. I was born June the 26th, 1932.
Wow. Okay. You was just telling me some stories about your mother and your father. Can you just give me some more stories about
You
how
really,
it was in the household?
You really want to know?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do, honey.
Okay.
Go ahead. Get you saying. Talk freely. Thank you.
Let me tell you something. When I was coming up as a child, we didn't have much. But my father made sure we went to church every Sunday. Mm-hmm. And when we came home from church on Sunday, it was different than a lot of kids came home. When we came home from church on Sunday, my father would have breakfast with us. But we didn't have breakfast like everybody else. When we got home, my father would have fried chicken and gravy, mashed potatoes, and biscuits for us for breakfast when I got home from church on Sundays. That's the way it was every Sunday.
You had a lot of, I mean to cut you off, you had a lot of, when I was hearing before, you had a lot of family come over and neighbors and...
No, well, let me tell you what. Now, as I said, I was raised partially on M Street, 458 M Street Northwest. Mm-hmm. And I think we stayed in that house with my grandmother, who was not very nice to us, and my mother and her kids, no. My mother was the youngest, and my grandmother was mean to us. At that time, it was Mildred, Sonny, and I in that house. Now, my Aunt Lucille's children, she did everything for. Us, she did nothing. My mother was the youngest, and she treated her very badly. Okay? So we stayed in that house for a while, and then further along the way, I remember we moved into an apartment. I don't remember where it was, because I was still young, but we did move out. And, was Barbara born? It was Mildred, Sonny, me, and Barbara. I think Barbara was the baby, yeah, when we lived on M Street. Then we moved from there, we moved into an apartment. Later on in years, my father worked in the government for many years, so there was a housing project being built. And it wasn't too far from Ivy City. And it was built right behind Mount Olive Cemetery. Wow. That's where we lived. And it was fabricated housing, the kind of homes that you fold open. It was fantastic. It really was. We had 4 bedrooms, a small living room, and a little kitchen and a bath, a little dining area to eat. And our backyard faced Mount Olive Cemetery. And that neighborhood was all these fabricated houses. As I said, the big house sit in the center, and then they had like 2 smaller houses come down on the side, and they had a walkway and everything. And we had good times there. We really, truly did. As I said, we had recreation centers there. And then Ivy City, we had to go to school up in Ivy City. Oh, okay. And those days, those Ivy City kids would come down and beat our ass. They used to beat the hell out of us. They was always coming down and attacking us. But we survived it. We had some good times. And that's where I met your grandfather, Dennis. Uh-oh. His mother moved there. They had a 2-bedroom. He was an only child. And my thing, I was so excited. Guy had a bicycle, and I wanted to learn how to ride it, and never did. Fell off and hurt myself. But we grew up in that area while I was still living there. We got married while I still lived there. Wow. Yep. Got married while I was still living there. And then from there, we got our first apartment. We lived in somebody's house on Trinidad Avenue. We rented their basement apartment. And Dennis Jr. was raised there for a while. Then we finally moved from there. And through the years, we got an apartment on East Street, Northeast.
So.
And that's when I moved there. Let's see, did I have Paula there? Yeah. Live on East Street, Northeast, and that's where I raised my 2 kids. And then finally, things got better. We finally bought a house.
Wow, that's over
Yeah.
Northwest.
And then I had Jeffrey there. Yeah. When I moved there, let me see. God, he's such an age different. I can't remember. Let me see. I forgot now. Anyway. Golly. I got to go back. You see, I'm getting old. I can't remember every damn thing.
It's okay.
But anyway,
I didn't say that.
but anyway, I had Jeffrey when we lived on 8th Street Northwest. Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't have him there. Paul and Dennis. I think maybe they were 8 and 9. No, because they was 2 years apart, so they probably was. Golly. Maybe 7 and 9 or 8 and 10 or something. Anyway, and when we moved there, yeah.
So how, going back to your mother and father, how was it? You said how strict they were about.
Oh, my mom and dad?
Yeah, were they strict, stern?
Well, let me tell you something. I was born a housekeeper. That's the way I was born. My mom and dad, when we lived on East Street, when we live in the project, live in the housing place, off of Blainsburg Road behind Mount Honor Cemetery. My mom and dad never had to worry about the house because my sister Mildred was in charge. And me and Sonny had to obey my sister. And then Cena was born. So there was Mildred, Sonny, me, Mildred, Sonny, me, Barbara, and Aunt Lola. And then Cena came. Okay?
Wow.
Cena came. Oh my God, when Cena came, I was the most unhappy little girl you ever met. Because she was so damn white. I'm not lying. I told my mother, you take that white baby back where you got it from. Then Joe came. I said the same, he was light. Because my dad was on the light side. But they were lighter than him. And that's the way and I used to have the rock scene on the porch, and you could not leave the house without those children going to sleep. So I babysat. So I would rock Cena, and I'd be blowing her eyes, trying to get her to go to sleep, because I wanted to go to play. But I couldn't go to play, because I had to take care of that baby, okay?
Wow.
But we had some good times. We really did. We didn't have a lot of bad times, because my dad, there were times my mom and dad struggled, with food and stuff, but we always ate. We always ate. And we had a good upbringing. My mom and dad was very strict. They would bust your butt. So the last person was born. Let me see. Pat was the last one to be born in that when we lived on in that housing community. Yeah.
Wow.
She was the
city, right?
She was the baby Joyce, and no, it was near Ivy City. Yeah, in that area. Yeah, we were. As I say, the house was right behind Mount Olive Cemetery, and I used to scare the hell out of them all the time. At that time, when you're young, nothing frightens you. We used to we used to play in the graveyard at night, walk through it at night. When I used to come home, I used to take a shortcut at night coming through the graveyard to get home. There was a little opening in the fence, and that's what we did. But today, no. So anyway, I got pregnant with Paula. With Dennis. As I said, I got married, and finally we moved out, and we moved on Trinidad Avenue. We rented a room from somebody we knew. And then later on, Daddy got a job. He was working, but then he started working for Pepco. And then, we furbished it up. Things got better, and we moved on. And we got our apartment on East Street, Northeast. And then further on, we bought our house, where we stayed until the day I moved. But I used to cause my brother so much heartache as a kid. I did.
All your brothers?
No, Sonny. He was the oldest.
Okay.
He was the oldest. And when we lived in that development, Sonny was a good person. Sonny was always a lovable person. And your granddad, him and Dennis became brothers. They really loved each other. Because Dennis, your grandfather didn't have any siblings. So him and Uncle Sonny, they gravitated to each other. They really did love each other. They really truly did. But boy, if he hit me, Daddy, Sonny hit me. And they say my father was beating his butt. And my mother was so mad at me. Because she said, you always causing him to get a beating. And I did. I was a devil. I did do that. And when I got older, I apologized to him. I did. Because my father was hard on those boys. Now, he wasn't hard on the girls. But he was hard on those boys.
I was going to ask you about that because...
No, he was hard on the boys. Mm-hmm. You were not allowed to touch us. You didn't mess with the girls. Mm. So I cost my brother a lot of beatings. And I tell you, at that time when you're young, you don't realize how devilish you are or the pain you cause anybody. But when you get older, you realize. And I felt he needed my apology. Mm. So I gave it to him.
I'm glad that worked out.
But I'm going to tell you something. It brings tears to... Oh, I got to see if I can say this because... Oh. I'm sorry.
No.
To this day, I still grieve my sister. And talking about the most wonderful, wonderful person in the world was my sister Mildred. There was nobody like her in the world. There's nobody like her in the family. Excuse me.
You okay, honey?
I don't talk much about my sister that much because it still bothers me.
Thank you for talking about it. Just please, what makes you comfortable.
And just a minute. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
See, nobody knows how I feel to this day because I don't discuss things. But that's still a heartbreak for me. And my sister Mildred was the most wonderful human being you could ever meet. Ever meet. Before we moved into the project, I was living on M Street. She was the oldest, and we had to listen to whatever she said. My mom and dad went to work. At that time, I'm going back, but at that time, we lived at 458 M Street. And in that house, my grandmother lived on the lower level. We lived on the first floor, and then the other families lived on the third floor, okay? And as I say, my grandmother really gravitated to my Aunt Lucille's children and did nothing for us and treated my mother like she didn't belong, okay? So my mom and dad went to work. Mildred was in charge. And whatever Mildred said, you had to do. Well, Sonny, he bucked her one day. She picked him up and threw him out the back door. I'll never forget it. But my parents didn't punish her. But they beat the hell out of... My father beat the hell out of Sonny because he disobeyed her. Disobeyed my sister. But when I tell you, my sister Mildred was God-gift. Believe me, she was God-gift. And every child should have a mother like my sister. She never hit her kids. She never screamed. But she didn't have a wonderful life. She did not. Her husband had been in the service, and he was not a good father. He was not a good husband at all. He wasn't. He used to fight my sister until my father got involved. But when my sister had children, They came. No, I mean, one time she was having a child in the house and we had to pull up real fast and the baby just came. I can't, we all have people in our lives that you may say different things about them. But in my heart and soul, my sister was an angel. I wish things could have been better for her, but they weren't. They weren't that good for her. But, you know how some people deserve better and never get it? But I think she got it at the end of her life before she passed away. She did meet somebody nice, but by that time it was too late, But anywho, she had beautiful kids. She had all those children. She was a good mom. As I said, she's never hit you. She will always pinch you in the back of your arm here.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah.
She used to always pinch you. And if she was always on me because I had a mouth. Oh, Dolores, you shouldn't say that. That's the way she was. And believe me, to this day, I just know she's floating around in heaven because that was an angel. And my sister was just unbelievable. It's hard to describe. It really, truly is. It's hard to describe her. She wasn't. She never sat and complained to you about nothing. She didn't. She had a lot to complain about, but she never ever sit and do a lot of complaining about anything. She accepted what her life was. Now, but me, my mother went to school for me almost every day. Till she called me a hussy. She would always say, I wonder what that hussy did today. Because there was always at school. I went to a school off of Benning Road. What was that? I can't remember. It sits back off of the road there, and there's a golf course for the black golf course people. It's right there.
Yeah.
What is that school up in there? Anyway, we used to call it a prison. I'm going to tell you why. Because they didn't let you out of school. We stayed in that school. They didn't let us out. We didn't have outside. We was always inside of that school. The reason why I went to that school, I had a mouth. I'm going to be honest with you. I had a mouth. I was only disrespectful when you didn't treat me right. And I'm still that way to this day. And I can't change. I'm not going to ever change. It's too late. But anywho, my mother used to go to school for me all the time. All the time. So one time she went to school for me, and we had this black teacher that I loved, okay? And my mother says, he's the only one that don't complain about you. I said, because if he asked me to jump out the window, I'll jump out the window because I love him. And I did. He was a wonderful teacher. And I never gave him any trouble. And at that time, we had white teachers in the school, too, at that time. We had a few white. So anyway, I finally grew up from that, I guess.
So, Grandma...
They took me, I had to be taken from that school, and they sent me to Shore on 7th Street. That's where they sent me. And I always in trouble there, too. Yeah. Wow. The girls one time, they're always going to beat me up. They was going to beat me up, supposed to beat me up. So my cousin Thelma, who's gone, who was another God-gifted person, they were going to come up there to meet me, make sure nobody was going to beat me up.
So this is when you was in middle school? Or
Junior high school.
Junior high.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they had to take me from one school to put me in another school. I was terrible.
So...
I was terrible.
So, Grandma, your mother had to, did she ever, she just gave you a lot of, how did she deal with you then? I mean, she just told
my mother wasn't the type, she didn't beat us that much. she tried to talk to you, but I did cause them a lot of hardship. I did. They took it in stride. I mean, they took it in stride. Yeah. But they did what they had to do. And like when the principal at, oh God, I wish I remember the name of that school, said something. My father told me if he ever touched me, he would hurt him. You know, you didn't mess with the girls. You just did not mess with the girls. You just didn't do that.
So all your siblings, all the female siblings in your family, like you mentioned Mildred.
And I'm gonna tell you something. Just like I say, my sister Mildred was God gift. My brother Sonny was God gift. I was the devil from hell. I'll put it that way because I didn't take nothing from nobody. I was just born that way. I couldn't help it. But I was a clean fanatic. My mother and father, they would tell you, that place was spotless all the time. Because you see how I am now. I was born that way. I can earn out of this world. It used to take me all day long to make $5. I had this cousin named Bernard. They live on 21st Street Northeast, in an apartment building. And I used to babysit his kids. Okay? And then I got jobs working for all these professional black people that was friends of theirs. And I earned 50 cents an hour all day long. And at that time, I would take my money and I would take Joyce everywhere I went. Joyce was my little girl. I took her everywhere I went. If I made $5, I bought her shoes. I did. I took Joyce everywhere I went. Till sometime I would meet some guys. I was still young, and they thought the child was mine because I took her everywhere I went. She was my protector. I didn't, when young kids see you with babies and stuff, although I was too young, they not gonna mess it. You sure that's not your baby? Because I would take her everywhere I went. Mm-hmm. She was my little doll. I took her everywhere I went. I did. Wow. And if I made $5, I would take her and buy her a pair of shoes. I sure did. Wow. But as times went on, and I got pregnant, had to get married. I thought my dad was gonna kill Dennis, but he didn't. And after that, I stayed at his mother's house, and then from there we moved on Trinidad Avenue, and I was doing some ironing for this woman, a black family, mm-hmm. And they rented me out their basement, And from there, when Dad got up on his feet, we got an apartment on East Street Northeast.
That's great.
And that's where I raised my kids from there until I moved into my house. But I must say, my mother and father, my father was very strict, and my mother was a little more laid back. But I was very, how can I put it, determined to do what I wanted to do. So when I got a beating, which I did, my father beat you with nothing on. He said, take your clothes off. Take your clothes, everything. He beat you naked. But he never left no whips on me. Never broke my skin. And we got beaten with a strap. I forgot now what they call that strap. But that's what we got beaten with, okay?
I heard that.
Okay, that's the one you would do your race, yeah. But my father, we never had no whips. Never. Now, Joe was something else. That little red-haired nigga, he was something else. He was a little bow-leg at the time. He come in and, Mama's been looking for you, and when you get home, you're going to get a beating. So this particular time, I says, when I get home, she can beat me all she wants. I am not going to cry. But I'm going to tell you something. If you think that way, it can work. It can work. I got home. Mama tore my butt up. I didn't shed a tear.
Why did he come toward you and say that in the first place? You know why?
That's because Ronnie, he was a devil. He was a little devil. He was a little devil. That's what he was. And so we got home. And so when my father came home that night, I swear I didn't think she was going to tell my dad. My daddy said, Dolores, yes, Daddy, come here. I was, yes, Daddy. He said, oh, I heard you got a beating today and you didn't cry, huh? I said, yes, sir. He said, let me see if you're going to cry now. Well, at that time, you know, there's a saying that if you can make that happen, you can think that, and that mind, that built up that you have in your mind, it works. Mm-hmm. At that time, it hadn't worked because I wasn't prepared. Tore my ass up. God, did he tear me up. I was mad at my mother for days because she told my dad. I couldn't be disrespectful to her, but I had an ugly look on my face. She said, you need to change your face. I was so mad at my mom because I didn't think, because she knew how my daddy beat you, so I didn't think she was going to tell him, but she did. Mm. She did.
What was the favorite, what type of music you had playing at the time that made y'all gather together?
What kind of what?
Music. What music influenced the house at the time?
Music? Oh, my God. Ooh, they played a lot of, my mother played a lot of church music on, you know, stuff like that. Now, me coming up, I could sing out of this world. Today, I cannot, because I'm older probably. But I could carry a tune, because I really did want to be a singer. In fact, so did your grandfather. Your grandfather and I used to sing together. But, you know, as I got old now, I can't even carry a tune. I don't know what the hell. That age is a bitch. It kills everything, you know. It kills everything. But anyway, we played a lot of church music and stuff like that, you know, because we had radio. There was no television then. It was radio. Mm. And it was radio, and then your little console thing you play records on. That's that's all there were. But that's all there was. And we went to Catholic church. And just like I told you, when you came home, that's the way my father would fix your meals for you. Mm. We had some good meals. When my father could afford, we had some good meals. But anyway, my father always liked to cook. Always loved to cook. He never did let my mom in the kitchen. When my mother started cooking, I said, oh, Ma, I know you used to cook. She said, well, I am, but your father never let me in the kitchen, which he didn't. And my father worked in the government. And he will cook. That man loved to cook. Mm. Loved to cook. But coming up, oatmeal, cream of wheat tina. They don't have wheat tina anymore.
What is wheat tina?
It was almost like a cream of wheat, but it was sort of like a brownish like. But it was all the cereals that they used to have. Mm. Could not get me eat that oatmeal till the day I die. Hated it.
To this day?
Hated it. We had grits, but with tina came before grits. Okay? And we would have hot cereal. We sure did. But that wheat tina and that oatmeal, I could not eat that oatmeal. To this day, I cannot eat oatmeal. Never liked it. Mm. It was something where it looked, I just could never eat it. But that's what we had. And my father and my mother provide the best way they could. As I said, I was a clean fanatic. Like I used to have, in those days, we had those brown